What's going on, you guys? Welcome on back to the channel. Now, the new episode for ReZero Season 4 is officially here, and with it, this is honestly the hands down best episode of the entire season. I know I've been saying that for every episode of this season, but for this episode in particular, I really mean it. This is hands down the best episode of the season. Like, if Julius wasn't already like one of my favorite characters in the entire series, this episode just catapulted him to essentially the top of that list. That's how good this episode is. And I love the fact, too, that it's a named episode. Like, I don't know if this is a hot take or anything like that, but for me, a lot of the previous named episodes for ReZero, they kind of feel like they suffer from like pacing issues and stuff like that. Here in this episode, I didn't have any of those problems. This episode, in my opinion, is handled with so much love and care and attention to detail that it elevates the episode in a way that I honestly didn't see coming. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about the newest episode of ReZero Season 4. So, first things first that I really want to get into and talk about is I said last episode that the Subaru and Typhoon kind of like flashback sequence was reanimated material. I was wrong. They didn't go out of their way to reanimate that, but I was in the right direction. And that is because this first episode or this first scene starts with an entirely reanimated sequence of Julius watching Subaru declare himself in front of the entire audience in the throne room as Emilia's knight. I loved that so much because for ReZero Season 1, they have a lot of great moments, but a lot of them feel like they're hindered by the art style. And especially now, because ReZero, after Season 3, and now especially in Season 4, they now, I feel like, have a defined art style that's going to be like pretty much used throughout the rest of the series. It kind of makes going back to old seasons kind of harder to do. So I like the fact that White Fox might be taking the route of reanimating certain things. So that way, like, they kind of line up more with the current art style. I love that. I hope that's something that they continue to do, especially because of how important this scene is throughout the whole entire episode. But we'll get into that later. Now, next, I really want to get into the Julius and Reid stuff. What I love so much too about Julius and Reid round one is how it kind of flips expectations on its head. Like, I kind of thought that Julius was going to be able to like win this fight, especially since I could tell from frame one that this was an entire episode about Julius. So I was like, okay, he's going to be able to win. He's going to beat Reid, and then they're going to be able to move on to the next trial. No, because as soon as Julius throws the sword at Reid, because he wants a fair and honorable fight, and Reid uses his chopsticks, right at that point, all bets are off because Julius starts getting worked. He's getting like kneed in the ribs. He's getting kicked. Like, he is getting absolutely worked in this fight. He's getting brutalized. He really has no shot throughout the entire fight. Like, the animation's great, but he's getting absolutely worked. And then when he's getting dragged through the dirt, you see Anastasia start to lose it a bit, right? You see her start using her spell over and over to try to save him. And what I think in that moment is I think that's Anastasia taking back control of the body because we know that Echidna is kind of like helping her like throughout this arc, right? But I think in this moment, Anastasia took over the body again because I feel like Anastasia and Julius develop some kind of feelings for each other. Similar to how Subaru and Emilia have feelings for each other, I think the same is true for Anastasia and Julius. It's just not something that's really been as developed like on screen. But here in this moment, you see Anastasia start to lose it and firing the spell so frenetically because she doesn't want the man that she loves to essentially be killed or hurt in any way. And that's why she has really no regard for her body in that moment. And that's ultimately why she passes out. And I love that moment so much. It's a smaller moment that I didn't really pick up on at first. It took me like another rewatch to really see that point, but that's honestly a really good moment for Anastasia's character, especially because now we know that her and Echidna are kind of like not like they're always kind of like battling for control of the body a little bit. Now, Moving on from that, we then see Julius like react to Anastasia passing out, and we see him launch one last counteroffensive where he kicks Reid and he tries to get and he gets back up and he starts launching a flurry of sword attacks. I love this scene so much because it makes you think Julius might be able to get one over on Reid. Maybe one of these attacks is going to connect, but right then and there, Reid essentially makes it known, you cannot beat me. He stops the sword dead in its tracks with his chopsticks, and then a moment that I thought could happen but never thought it actually would happen, Reid snaps his sword. He snaps it clean. And what I love so much about this scene is because Julius, his arc throughout this entire season has been he's losing certain things about himself that make up who he is, right? Everybody's like lost their memories of him. His contracted spirits don't remember him anymore. The only really thing that he's had left is his honor as a knight and especially his proficiency with the blade and his sword. Like now, though that sword has been snapped and severed by Reid, he's officially lost another piece of himself. Right? He doesn't have that anymore. That sword is so important to him that that's one of the main things about him, his proficiency with the blade. So the fact that he sees his sword snapped in front of him like that, like you can clearly see on his face that his world is shattering like in that moment. And then he gets knocked out, and honestly, dude, that was such a good sequence, especially because I've said it before, but the animation for that sequence, especially for like the whole fight, is so good. That's some of the best animation that ReZero has really done throughout the entire show. But moving on from that, we then see Emilia tap in, right? We see Emilia tap in for essentially her fight against Reid. And what I like about Emilia's fight too is that I was not expecting Emilia to get this great animation, right? Like I thought this was going to be like the big Julius episode where like I thought was going to get exclusively all the great animation, but no. White Fox was like, we're going to spread it around a little bit because this fight sequence that she gets when she's fighting Reid is so good. I especially love when she summons her ice brand arts, right? And I don't know if it's just me, but I love the sound effects that the Ice Brand arts have. It sounds so satisfying and I love it so much. It's hard to explain why I love it, but it just works so good. Like you can tell that the sound effects team like really has fun when Emilia gets to fight because they kind of just get to like flex a little bit and I love that for them. But what I also love too is how it's kind of like a small thing, but I love how when Amelia's fighting Reid, like with the different like forms of ice weapons, you can kind of tell that her fighting style changes a little bit with each attack. Like first she's like kind of fighting with like these kunai ice attacks, and she's kind of like she's kind of like fighting kind of like sneakily a little bit, but then she has like this lance ice or this ice lance attack, and then her fighting style changes again too. So a White Fox didn't need to do that. They didn't need to like give her entirely different like fighting styles and fighting like art styles and all that, but the fact that they did show such a good attention to detail that I really wasn't expecting. White Fox is really cooking for this season, dude. And if there were any other things that I missed in that fight, let me know because that fight was awesome. I love Emilia's fight with Reid. Like you can clearly tell too that the animators had fun with that fight, especially because of like how like all the different attacks that she was using. But there's one thing that I do have to address. It's the one thing that I didn't like about this episode. It's the Reid using his chopsticks on Emilia moment. I didn't like that. It wasn't my favorite thing in the episode. I understand why they had to do it, but for me, it kind of just brought the episode a little bit to a screeching halt because it was operating at like a 10 throughout the entire episode. And then we had that weird moment. I don't know. It just wasn't really my thing. I'm not a fan of that stuff. Like I understand why it had to happen for the narrative because it was really the only way Emilia was going to be able to get Reid to move, and that was the only way she was going to be able to win. But I don't know. That's just not my favorite my favorite moment in the episode. I thought it was a little forced a tad, but I understand why they had to do it. So after that amazing like fighting sequence from Emilia and all that, we see her get the win over Reid. But what I like too, and kind of like the little layer that they throw in there, is that Amelia is the only one that can move on to the next trial. Right? Everybody has to beat Reid in order to move on to the next trial, and that's interesting to me. It makes me wonder, like, what's going to happen now? Like, is Emilia going to split off from the group while maybe Subaru stays in the library and does research? Like, what could really happen next? Because then we see them all essentially retreat. And what I like too is that we get to see Rom again. Because I did not think we were going to see Rom again, especially this soon. I thought we weren't going to see her again for a while. Like, I thought she was going to kind of be relegated to just watching over Patricia and Rem. But I like that this episode essentially introduces the fact that they can go back and they can reconvene with Rom again. So I like that. I like that Rom doesn't just like disappear from the narrative. That was what I was honestly worried about. So I like this. I like the fact that we get to go back and see Rom. And I especially like the stuff with Shaula this episode. I want to talk about Shaula a little bit because Shaula, for me, I was worried about her character at first because I thought she was just going to be like kind of this annoying character that really is just like grating on the audience, that just like calls Subaru master all the time and is kind of just like a weird character. No. Shaula's voice actress, particularly in the sub, gives such a good performance and gives Shaula life that I wasn't expecting at all. Like, Shaula, in my opinion, might have the best performance in the entire season because what you have to realize is Shaula's voice actress has to walk a fine line, right? Where essentially, like, if she comes off too strong, it could be perceived as cringe, but especially with like the material that they give her. But what I like is that the voice actress is so compelling within this role that it immediately like makes you not even think about that stuff. Like, she's putting on the performance of her life, especially when she's talking about Reid and all that, and you see her jump into like Subaru's arms and like start screaming and all that. Like, that is like some actual great visual comedy that I wasn't really expecting at all. They crushed it. Like, especially because I know it's Power's voice actors, so I love the fact that she's just putting on such a good performance. She's putting on a show. She steals the scene every time that she's in a scene with like any of the characters. Shaula steals the scene. I love it. And even in dub, the dub is great too. Like, for the dub, Shaula's voice actress is Coco from Witch Hat Atelier, and she crushes it too. They crush it as well. Like, both voice actors give such a good performance as Shaula that it just elevates her as a character, and I love it so much. Now, moving on from that, we then see ReZero, or we see Subaru, not ReZero. We see Subaru go to talk to Julius about like what he learned, essentially, where he learned that who they really were fighting was Reid, and then he goes in there and he sees that Julius is gone and he left his broken sword behind. I love that so much because now Subaru is realizing the parallels between them as characters. And what I mean by that as characters is Subaru is realizing that Julius is essentially about to be doing what he did, where he didn't know when to give up and he's about to be humiliated. So we then get Julius versus Reid round two, right? We essentially have this fight again. And in this moment, you can clearly see that even though Julius gets like this big like hype moment where you're seeing him relive all these past flashbacks, like, even then, that is not enough. He still gets humiliated and embarrassed by Reid. And what makes it even worse is like the things that Reid is saying to Julius. Like, he's calling him like a phony follower and all that. He's essentially saying nobody asked you to come here. You are not like he's essentially calling him a background character, and essentially calling him not important at all. Like, he's kind of treating him like he's a 2-bit player, and Subaru and Emilia are essentially the main cast. He's not saying that initially, but you can tell that's what Reid means. He wants to break down Julius. This is essentially what Julius did to Subaru. he broke him down and tried to make him realize that he's not a knight or anything like that. And he wanted to embarrass him in front of everyone. But here, it's just between Julius and Reid. And Reid is going out of his way to embarrass him and strip him of that last thing that he has left, his honor as a knight. That's all Julius has left at this point. He's lost everything else, especially his sword. The only thing he has left is his values as a knight and everything that he learned as a kid. But in that moment where Reid is essentially belittling him and all that, like, you see also Julius like remember everything with Reinhard, and he remembers how much of a prodigy that Reinhard truly is. And you see Julius maybe start to think, wait a minute, maybe I am just kind of like a background character. Maybe I am not that important to the story. And then Subaru comes in right before Reid launches his final attack and essentially wipe him out. We see Subaru come in, showing that their connection is so strong as characters. I love that so much. But moving on from that, we finally get to the end of the episode. And the end of the episode is so powerful to me. I love the fact that Subaru is carrying him down the stairs, and then Julius like makes himself get knocked down the stairs because his honor can't allow Anastasia to see him like this. Like, even though Julius has lost everything as a character at this point, especially because in his mind, I feel like he thinks his honor as a knight has been stripped away from him. He doesn't want Anastasia to see him in this state, so he essentially makes himself get knocked down, and he's trying to like walk by himself, and he yells at Subaru to get away from him, and you see Subaru realize in that moment, like, oh man, this is exactly what happened to me. Like, I was completely humiliated and I didn't know when to accept help. And in this moment, you see Subaru go and extend help to Julius. I love that so much because like Subaru in that moment, he just wraps his arm around him, like he yells at him a little bit to get him to come to his senses. But what I liked too was when Subaru was like, I know what it's like to be essentially be humiliated by you. So again, you're able to see like the parallels between these two characters, right? This episode is rich with so many different parallels between these two characters. Like, I can't even list them all, but this right here is the best parallel between the two characters. The fact that they were both humiliated. Julius at first was the one doing the humiliating, and now he's on the receiving end of it, and now he knows how Subaru felt. But what I love the most and the best scene in the entire episode is we go back to the beginning of the episode where we see essentially Julius start to walk forward, and we see as the title card pops up, we see him say there was someone in that hall who was deeply moved by that, showing that Subaru as a character essentially changed Julius for the better the day that they met and the day that he saw Subaru give his speech. The day Subaru gave that speech was the day that essentially Julius's life began. I love that so much. This episode is just so perfect. I could talk about this. Like, this is probably already my longest ReZero video solely because I love this episode so much. There's so much that I could talk about, and I'm sure there's stuff that I missed, but I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this episode. How did you guys feel about this? Because to me, this is hands down the best episode of the entire season. They crushed it. Everything from the animation to the action choreography to the voice acting to the OST choices, everything was perfect. This is the perfect episode of ReZero. This right here to me is the new gold standard for ReZero as a show. And I hope that, especially with named episodes, this is the approach that they take. I hope this isn't just exclusive to Julius, especially if we get more named episodes in the future. I would love stuff like this because they knocked it out of the park. I loved it so much. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there was any big moments that I missed down in the comments below. I would love to just like have a just big dialogue about this episode because this episode to me is perfect. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'm going to talk to you guys next time. Bye.